I forgot to tell you guys, moms, we have chocolate-covered strawberries for you this morning. Go in and eat them, because as soon as the church is over, the guys get to go at it, and we will eat them all. All right, I don't know who's supposed to do announcements this morning, so I'm going to come up here and steal this bulletin that happens to be in the front row. Moms, I made the bulletin a nice pretty teal for you this morning. Figured you've seen enough pink. I color code my graphics, so I'll use a same or similar graphic for each week of a series, but then we'll shift the colors from week to week as well. What will moms appreciate? That's what moms will appreciate. Or they won't notice or care at all. Either of those two things are possible. All right, so announcements really quickly. We are having, Kate and Jen are hosting a game night this Wednesday night. Hopefully it's the first of many. If you come on Wednesday nights all of the time, most of the time, some of the time, or never, you are invited. So please come on out, bring games. We are having the youth and the kids stay over as well, and we are going to have a family, everybody involved game night. So bring your favorite board games, card games, games that you like to play but nobody knows so that you can teach it, and we will see what we can do, okay? There will be snacks. Yes, sir. What? You do not have to wear a cowboy hat. No. No, you don't have to wear a cowboy hat because, well, you could get away with it. I don't think I could. That wouldn't be. All right, youth camp is coming June 2 through 5. Please talk to Pastor Alex for more information if you have questions about camp. Camp forms are in the Welcome Center. They've been in there for about a month, so feel free to grab those and get your kids signed up for camp. We are having a community garage sale in July. We're bringing that up now, 2 months early, because we want you to have time to go through your junk and get stuff together, because this is one of our major camp fundraisers, okay? We're doing our camp fundraisers after camp this year, because that's how the schedule lined out. So our garage sale, if you would like to, it'll be out in the parking lot like we did last year. If you want to rent a space, you'll be able to do that and sell your own things in the parking lot if you would like to. If you have stuff that you want to get rid of, you can donate them to the church and we will sell them. All proceeds from the church part of the fundraiser and any rental spaces goes towards paying for camp. And like I mentioned a few weeks ago, our entire camp budget is like $3,000, $4,000, somewhere in there. That's such a tiny amount for a camp. There's no reason that we couldn't fund that through a couple of fundraisers with everybody on board. So if you're just cleaning out your attic and you want to donate some stuff, great. If you want to do, maybe you live in an apartment and you want to sell some stuff that you have, you're welcome to come on out and get a part for that. If you have any questions about the garage sale, please talk to Pastor Pam. Cool? Cool. That's July 26th, so you might want to put it on your calendar. Kathy Brasby does our 9 o'clock Sunday morning Bible study in the East Building. And last week she started a new series called Jesus is Lord, the Good News of Romans. So they're going over the book of Romans, East Building, 9 o'clock Sunday mornings. So when I'm over here practicing with the band, she's over there doing a Bible study. You guys are welcome to join her for that. All right, any questions not pertaining to cowboy hats? When I told him about the game night, Dave asked if we all had to wear a cowboy hat. And I said no. No, I don't. Only if it's pink. I'll wear a pink cowboy hat. Have you guys know Tim Hawkins, right? Tim Hawkins has a song called Pretty Pink Tractor. It's a kind of a pop country song that he wrote that in the song his tractor breaks down. So he gets on Craigslist and the only tractor he can find that he can afford is pink. And so he's driving around in a pretty pink tractor. And I think pink cowboy stuff is hilarious. Huh? You wear me a pink hat, I will wear it. That'll be flippin' hilarious. That will be hilarious. All right, so this series is a little bit of a play on words. We are continuing our series today, Spring Forward. So the idea is that, I'm going to leave my notes for just a quick minute. We are moving forward as a church. We are looking toward the future, and God is calling us to a new mission. Okay? Last fall, we looked at our purpose, our mission statement. Who are we? What is our DNA as a church in this season? And God gave us that. It's on the front of your bulletin. Life Fellowship Foursquare Church. We are, and then a bunch of words that I don't remember off the top of my head. We are united through genuine worship and praise, developing authentic community, and pursuing the heart of God as we work to grow the kingdom of God on earth. That's our general overarching purpose, but our mission, we don't know what our actual mission is. How does God specifically want us to be marching out into this community? Does he want us to march out into the community at all? Does he want us to just find a place to sit down and chill in the community? He very well may want that. We don't know, and that's the problem. So this series is one where we are asking God, as a church, where are we going to go? But we're also asking him, am I currently where I'm supposed to be as a person? Is my family interacting with the world? Is my family mission what it's supposed to be? Or is God calling my family to interact with the world in a different way? And so that's our series, and that's what we're doing. And the reason that we're looking at springs, and the reason springs are on it, it's not just a catchy title. Sorry, I printed a bunch of cribbage pegs for, you know how you get a cribbage board and then you break the pegs and you don't have any more? Vanita lost a few and asked me to print her some, and I did. And now she's not here, so I'm going to put them there. So they stop rattling in my pocket. So we're looking at springs because springs are an incredible machine. And springs, by their nature, they store energy and they release energy, right? And so I believe that God has been storing something up in Life Fellowship, and the time is coming for us to release that energy into our community. Okay? God has been storing up something in Life Fellowship, and the time is coming for us to release that energy into our community. Now, the thing about a spring is the laws of thermodynamics apply. They store energy, they release energy, but they have to be acted upon by an outward source to do either. And we are the same. We require Holy Spirit to come and work in us, with us, through us, to give us the power so that we can store, to give us energy to release. All of that energy comes from Holy Spirit. And the minute we try to store power or store energy or release energy under our own authority, under our own will, we get exhausted fast and we burn out. Okay? So it's very important that we understand that, yes, God's been storing something up in Life Fellowship, and we want to release that energy into the community, but it's important that we do what Holy Spirit's calling us to do, not just what we think is a good idea. Okay? So, in this series, originally this series was going to be topical in a way that was like, we're going to look at the different stages of David's life. We're going to look at the different stages of Moses' life. We're going to look at the different stages of Paul's life. And we're going to look at how God called them to different things at different times. And then I got into that first day, and that all got smacked away. So what we're actually doing is we are looking at a handful of data points, okay? So throughout this series, we're going to look at the difference between identity, calling, and mission, okay? So the reason identity is important, and the reason that we're looking at our mission statement, is because we have to know who we are. If we know who we are and whose we are, okay, we know that we are children of God. We belong to him. He's called us for a purpose. He has a plan for us that is good. When we're solid in that, we are starting from a good direction, okay? Let's look at archery, because archery is like the basis of all, like it's the most simple of all spring activities, okay? Because a bow is essentially a giant spring. It's a leaf spring like you would have in the back end of a truck, or front end of a really big truck, front end of a snowmobile. They exist, all right? So a bow is essentially a spring, right? You draw the bow, storing energy into the limbs of the bow. When you release the arrow, that energy is released in a forward motion, throwing the arrow forward, okay? I know about archery. I know a lot about archery. I used to shoot when I was a kid for fun, and It's a really good time. It's one of the few sporty things that I'm actually good at, relatively good at. Anyway, so we're talking about the spring, we're talking about the bow. And if you know about shooting anything, really, it could be firearms or bows, but we're going to talk about bows. When you draw the bow back, if you do not anchor your hand against your cheek, okay, if the back end of your arrow before you fire does not find its home, you will never be accurate in your firing. Okay? Now, in shooting handguns and rifles, you're lining up sights. It's a little bit different. But when you're shooting a bow, if your arrow does not find home, you will struggle to be accurate every time. So a lot of times, like when I was teaching my kids to shoot when they were little, they'd draw their bow back like this. And they would let go, and weird things would happen. And how come it shot mom over there? Well, because she wasn't standing behind the line, but also, no, they never shot mom. I do have this really cool picture of Xander, though, before he started growing his hair out. It was like his 5th birthday, I think, when I gave him his first bow. And his hair was still short, and he had it stood up in like almost a mohawk. And he's this little 5-year-old Xander with the blondest hair, just with a bow, and just the meanest look down his eyes, like, oh, that's my boy. And then he went metal, and so still awesome, just not mohawky. Although, we could mohawk that, Xander. It would be very 80s of us, but we could do it. He's not with me. He's not. We're not playing. Okay, so I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that we find our identity, that we find our home. Where are we starting from? As we are releasing energy, it's important that we find that home, that we draw that arrow back and we anchor it in the same spot every time. And our identity is our anchor point. Who am I? Son of God, child of the King, co-heir with Jesus, right? A lot of different things that we are, but it's important that we know that, okay? That's why, if you look in your bulletin under the announcements, you'll see a couple of websites. That's 16personalities.com and fivefoldministries.com. If you took the tests at those two websites a couple of years ago, I'd encourage you to do it again. Your test might come back exactly the same, and it might come back vastly different, but there's a lot to learn about yourself in both of those scenarios, okay? And we're not going to spend a lot of time on our identity in this series, but it's important that we know what it is, and knowing how my brain works tells me what God has called me to do. Because God made you, so that he made you and he made your brain work the way that it does because he wanted you and that brain in this world. He wanted your way of looking at the world in this world. Okay, God didn't create all of us, give us personalities, so that he could bring us to church and rewire them. Okay? Sometimes our personalities get off. Sometimes we get damaged. Sometimes the way that we grow up is not ideal. And so as adults, we need to make sure that we own the parts of our identity that are ownable, and we learn about our weaknesses so that we can plan for those. But knowing who you are, understanding your personality is part of that. If you go to 16 personalities and you take the test, they will tell you the good parts about your personality, and they will tell you some potentially dangerous parts of your personality, things that you need to look for. Okay? No. Yeah, we're done with that part. Moving on. So we need to know the difference between identity, calling, and mission, and why that order is important. Also, we're going to talk about what the difference is between knowing who you are and knowing what you should be doing. Because who I am and what I should be doing are not the same thing. And if they are, and the thing that I am doing doesn't work, I fail as a human. That's not what we're called to. Okay? If my identity is father, I am a father. First, foremost, and only, I am a father. And I get in a fight with my son, now my identity is in jeopardy. If my identity is in my job, and I lose my job, my identity is now in danger. If my identity is in the never failing, never changing character of Jesus, it doesn't matter what happens in the world, my identity is solid and never under attack. So it's important that we understand that knowing who we are and what we should be doing are not the same thing. We're also going to look at the difference between opportunity and assignment, okay? One of the bigger questions in AI is not can we, it's should we. We can do a lot of stuff, but should we, okay? It's like when they were talking about the atomic bomb. People are like, nobody ever stopped. Everybody was asking if we could. Nobody ever stopped and asked if we should. Well, we're going to look at that. And today, we're going to look at how we move from one season to another, from one assignment to another. Okay? And these are not in a particular order. These are all just every Sunday, every message in this series is part of the it's not an ABC type structure. It's just to give you more data to work on kind of structure, okay? And again, we're looking at this data through three lenses: the individual, the family, and as a church body, okay? All right, so if we are springs that store and release energy, we need to look no further than the mothers that probably don't feel like they store a whole lot of energy, but they definitely release energy. And so I really felt like God was like not just saying, Derek, talk about moms because it's Mother's Day, but like actually let's look at the life cycle of a mom and see kind of how that works for us. And so the first thing I wanted to ask was, what hats does a mom wear? And I found a list that is not exhaustive, but it's close. Moms are nurses, a cleaning service, a chef, referee, personal assistant, teacher, meal planner, chauffeur, party organizer, life coach, classroom parent, organizer, personal stylist, wet nurse, chief financial officer, entertainer, handywoman, psychic, that is, reader of minds. Okay, moms have to read minds because dads don't say what they're thinking. Kids sure as heck don't say what they're thinking, but mom's got to figure it out anyway if she wants her house to be peaceful in any form. So she is the guesser of needs, predictor of the future. She's a sleep coach. She's a pooping doula. Or chief butt wiper, if you will. Now, in my house, I wiped a lot of butts, but I did not wipe the majority. Pam still gets chief butt wiper title. She is a rule enforcer, investigator, photographer, translator, dental hygienist, family memories curator. You don't see any dads out there writing the baby book and building a scrapbook and getting the pictures printed so that they can last and be passed around. You don't see that. Moms are also the travel agent, the researcher, the fact checker, the crisis negotiator, the personal trainer, bargain hunter, comforter, laundry service, transportation service, lifeguard, dog walker, / pet attendant, and magic maker, because moms make holidays happen. You don't have a good holiday memory that didn't happen because there was some mom in the background making it happen. Now, finally, some moms have to be dads too. My mom had to be a dad too. Not because I didn't have a dad, but because my dad was on the other side of town and kind of liked to be left alone. So sometimes moms have to be dads too, and sometimes dads have to be moms, okay? We talked about that earlier this morning during worship, that we don't all have moms, and sometimes dads have to be moms. And dads that have to be moms, dude, I can't fathom covering all of that, but you have to. So moms are all things to everyone all the time. And if you're someone who feels like you're not a good mom, it's probably because you feel like you're not all of those things at the same time. Is that fair? Is that fair to you to feel like you're failing because you can't do all 80 of those things at the same time? I didn't count. It felt like 80. No, moms are insane gifts from God, and if you are winning at all as a mother, we thank you, we salute you. But today we're actually looking at the stages of motherhood because our lives, our callings, and our missions change from season to season, much like a mother's life, a mother's calling, a mother's mission changes from season to season. Now, I did ask Pam, I said, Pam, I feel awkward talking to moms about moms and not being a mom. But I talk about farming, and I'm not a farmer. So I guess we're in the same boat. We'll see if I can keep things appropriate and happy for you. We're going to look at the 6 stages of motherhood. This was written by Monica Berg at rethinklife.today. This is just the list of mother attributes that I chose to work from. They're written in different ways by many different websites. But this is the one that I felt like God was like, this one is going to speak to what we're talking about today. So, first stage of motherhood is the dreaming of motherhood stage. Dreams of motherhood stage. This is when a woman begins to dream of becoming a mother or of creating new life. Now, this might be a short period. This might be a little bit of time right before she starts trying to have a baby. Or it might be a time that begins when she's in her own childhood, playing with baby dolls and playing house and dreaming of someday becoming a mother. For some women, they never want to be parents, and then all of a sudden one day they're like, I really want a baby. And that's okay. And for some women, they never want to be parents, they never want to have a baby, and that's fine too. Okay? These are life choices that we get to make. There's no shame in any of it. But the dreaming of motherhood stage is stage one. This is when the possibilities are endless. The someday to be mother is looking forward into time and just imagining what could be. A boy, a girl, twins? Who will they grow up to be? What kind of a mother will I be? Will we go on the vacations and will they experience the things that I loved so much when I was a child? Or will I be a better parent than the ones that I had? And I know that didn't work for me, so I'm going to try this. And the mother is planning all of these things that she's going to do. And when I have a kid, I'm going to do it this way instead of that way. And building all these plans and all these struggles. Or not struggles, all these plans and all these situations. So as an individual and as a family and as a church, we go through this phase multiple times in our lives, okay? The church is an organism, okay? And so throughout the life of a church, this church, I think, was kind of started in the 70s, if I remember correctly, as small house groups. And as time has gone on, things have shifted for this church, and the dream of what's coming in the next season is something that is kind of on cycle, right? So in Isaiah 43, God reminds Israel how he saved them from Egypt. And how he parted the Red Sea, okay? God's like, hey, remember? I saved you from Egypt. I parted the Red Sea. And in Isaiah 43, verses 18 and 19, God says this, but forget all that I've done in the past. It is nothing compared to what I'm going to do, for I am about to do something new. See, I've already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry wasteland. As God starts to plant the seed of new desire in our hearts, let me back up. I don't want to go that way. God is constantly saying, okay, that thing that we just did was only to prepare you for the next thing, and the next thing is going to be bigger than the last one. So forget that last one because we're moving forward. And he does that continuously in our lives. As an individual, there have been many times in my life where God was like, okay, that old time is over. We're going to look forward and we're going to move forward now. And so for me at least, as God starts to plant the seed of new desire in my heart, it starts with a no. God says, hey, why don't we do this? And I say, no. And then a little bit later, he plants a what if in my head, and I start to dream. So often when God starts to do something, it'll start with a no because it seems scary to move forward, okay? Pam and I got married, and we were going to wait a while to have kids, and we did. But when Pam came to me a couple of years after we got married and said, hey, I think it's time for us to start having kids, I went, no. Because I was not ready. I was scared. Because I did not think I was going to be a good father. I did not think I was going to, I honestly didn't know how to be a father. My dad wasn't really a dad in my life, so I didn't really know what to do that would work, and I was scared to be a dad. But then a what if kind of popped into my head. What if it's okay? What if I can learn as I'm going? What if? When it was time to become a lead pastor, God started it that way. Like somebody was like, hey, you want to come take my church? And I was like, no. And then over the next few months, what if kind of popped into my head, and Pam and I together started dreaming the what if, until pretty soon our no became a yes. It was empowered by the dreaming. That's that same phase, okay? The what if is where we begin to dream of all that God could do if we were just to take the leap of faith into whatever that he's calling us to, okay? All right, the second stage of motherhood is the reality stage. The reality stage, I believe it kind of starts with a moment, all right? I didn't experience this myself, but I'm pretty sure I witnessed it in my wife. Pam, are you here? No. Okay, she had to go deal with some stuff. That's cool. So, I believe this stage starts with a moment, okay? So picture this. The baby has been born. We have that sweet moment. Mom's holding the new baby. New baby gets passed to dad, who quickly passes it back. Mom holds the baby. They leave the hospital. They go home. They're enjoying this new part of things together. The husband is home for maybe a couple of days before he has to go back to work. The mom's maybe got maternity leave or is just planning to stay at home anyway. And a lot of people come and visit. And they bring gifts for the baby and they bring food and there's a meal train to take care of the family. But after a few days, all that noise kind of dies down and everybody goes back home and maybe husband goes back to work and mom is sitting there holding this baby that will not stop crying. And she doesn't know what to do because it's the first time. And she has this feeling, oh crap, I'm a mom. I have a child. This screaming little peanut worm is my responsibility, and it is relying on me. Now, dads have this moment too. The baby is born, mom holds the baby, mom passes the baby to dad. Dad instantly goes, oh crap, I'm a dad. Take it back. 100%, that's when dads have the oh crap moment. But I think the moms wait. And so dad comes home the night of the oh crap moment and mom is just a mess. Because she realizes that this is real. Now, this often happens in our assignments in our journey with Jesus. A moment comes where we've been dreaming that God is going to do this thing, and he starts to do this thing, and we realize, bam, you're hanging out over open space, and you get scared. Matthew chapter 14, verse 28 through 30. Jesus has walked to the disciples on water. Peter calls out and said, Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you, walking on the water. Peter has a dream. If that's Jesus, and he can do that, I can do that too. I wonder what it's like to walk on water. And a whole lot of us are like, man, walking on water would be cool. I want to give that a shot. So Jesus says, yes, come. So Peter went over to the side of the boat, walked on the water toward Jesus, but when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. Save me, Lord, he shouted. Peter had an oh crap, this is real moment. That'd be really cool to walk on water with Jesus. Oh crap, this is real. Now, we've talked about this before, but on that particular sea, if it was an actual storm that was of note, waves were probably like this or this. They weren't like that. Waves are always like that. If it was a storm and they took note, it's got to be up here, okay? So Matthew 14, verse 31 through 33, Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed Peter. You have so little faith, Jesus said, why did you doubt me? Then they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped, and the disciples worshiped him. You really are the Son of God, they exclaimed. Here's the thing about the oh crap moment. When my wife had her oh crap moment with Xander, we had a support system. And I had to be at work, but I was able to call up Wanda Orchard, the wife of the pastor couple that we worked with, because she wasn't working during the day. And I said, hey, Wanda, Pam's at the end. Could you please come and watch the baby so she can have a nap? And Wanda said, absolutely, and she showed up. And Wanda's daughter, Desiree, would babysit for us so that we could have a little bit of time. And my sister was living in our town at the time, and she would come and hang out. And we had a structure. God didn't just let us be parents all by ourselves. We had a family. We had a community that was around us, that was supporting us, that was helping hold us up. So when Peter started to sink, Jesus reached out and grabbed him. Peter had a support system. And so when God calls us to something, and suddenly we find ourselves out in the middle of nowhere, and this thing is gaining momentum, and it feels like an out of control truck coming down a mountain, and we feel like we can't do anything. It's okay, because God has built in a structure. If he's called you to it, he's built a support structure for you. But, and this is the hard part, you have to be humble enough to call for it and enact it. A lot of times when it comes to ministry and life situations and calling, we get too prideful to ask for help when we need help. Okay, I told you guys last week that I've been dealing with a lot of stress, and I've been dealing with, I had a situation where I got very angry and kind of lost control a little bit. And so last week I reached out to the Foursquare counselor. Foursquare actually hires a guy. He's a counselor. He's a therapist that exists for us, paid for pastors to connect with when we need to. And so I finally met with this guy last Friday, and he's a godsend. Because not only does he know what I'm doing, but he was a pastor before he was a counselor, and he's been through what I'm going through. He's experienced what I've gone through. And not only is he going to teach me and train me to become a better person and control my emotions better, but he's actually connected me with other groups to train me in things that we're already doing. See, we talk a lot about mental health. We really do. More than most churches by far. And up to this point, we've kind of been winging it because I only know, I read a lot, but I'm not trained in any form or fashion. But there's a company that is starting a training for pastoral care mental health discussions. And I get to beta test it. I get to be a beta tester in this training, hopefully this summer, and so that I'm going to get to bring that. So not only did God give me a support for these things that I'm dealing with, but that support is far more helpful and is going to train me and teach me and help me to become a better pastor and a better person across the board. Okay, and it's similar. Okay, Peter didn't start to sink, and Jesus be like, "Shouldn't have doubted." And Peter's like, "Blah, blah, blah, blah." Not what happened, and that's not what God does to us. He gives us the support system. We have to be humble enough to call for help when we need it, okay? 3, the patience pushing stage. These are the toddler years for a mother. They have all the feelings. Your children have all the feelings and none of the language to deal with them. These are the messy times, kids digging through and dragging out everything they can get their hands on, spilling everything, throwing food. Now, you guys have seen like the picture of the baby in the kitchen with flour everywhere, and they're just playing in the flour because they pulled the thing out. I never experienced that. The worst thing that my kids did was Xander with a pencil. And he drew a line from upstairs in our house, down the hallway, around the corner, down the stairwell, into the basement, and around the basement. And so we gave 4-year-old Xander an eraser and said, "Get to work," and he never did it again. And so that's the worst we have. We don't have these big messes, but I have a golden retriever. Max just turned 1, and he's this phase, okay? All right, a couple of weeks ago, Pam and the kids were out of town. They were coming home. It was Monday. I'm going to clean the house, so when Pam comes home, she comes into a clean, organized house. It'll feel good. She'll feel like normally when we all go on vacation as a family, we make the house spotless, so we come home to a spotless house. But because I stayed home, I was living in it, and I had done a bunch of projects, and so I was mopping the floors and cleaning everything, and I was like, okay, Pam's going to be home in like 2 hours, so I pick up all the dog toys, and I put them in the dog toy box. And I grab the dog blankets, and I throw them in the dog's crate, because Max still likes his crate a lot, and so he sleeps in his crate. So I threw all his blankets in his crate. Not 20 minutes later, I turn around, and this dog has dragged out every blanket and spread them across the house. Max, okay, when he stands on his hind legs, his paws go here, and his face goes here, okay? He's not a little dog. He shouldn't be acting like a little dog, but he grabs this blanket from his thing, and he drags it out across the house, and then he'll spend a half hour spreading it out. He never just drags out his blanket and leaves it in a pile. He grabs the corners, and he spreads it out like he's setting up for a picnic or something. So he does that. And then he goes into the toy box and he pulled out every stinking toy. Not just the ones that I put away, but the ones that were already put away. And he spread them everywhere. 20 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. 20 minutes. And this dog had my house wrecked again. He quit eating the drywall. He quit eating the drywall. He quit eating the drywall. We got to hold on to the good stuff, you know? We got to put our eyes on what's good. But moms, tell me, is that what toddlers are kind of like? Am I wrong? Okay. So for me, there's this age where up until about 2 or 3, kids are awesome. And I love them, and they're cuddly. Like little Noah over here, where they're cute, and they're fun, and they're experiencing the world. But then this moment comes where they get crazy, and they can't talk. I struggle in that area. I can't tell you how many 5-year-olds have come up and been like, "Pastor Derek," and I go, "What?" And they go, and I look at mom and dad and I go, "Help." Because that's not words. All right, look at this. Numbers chapter 11, verses 10 through 15. Moses heard all of the families standing in the doorways of their tents whining. Okay, can you imagine being in charge of 2 million men, so 2 million men plus their families, 5 million something people, if they were small families. Moses heard all the families standing in the doorways of their tents whining, and the Lord became very angry, became extremely angry. Moses was also very aggravated. And Moses said to the Lord, "Why are you treating me, your servant, so harshly?" I love this. I love this so much. I want to remind everyone, if you weren't here the last time we talked about God and Moses in the Old Testament, God's heart was never to destroy Israel, but Moses didn't see himself as one of Israel. He saw himself leading God's people. He didn't see himself as one of them. And so every time Moses would complain, God would say, "I'll just wipe them off the face of the earth." And then Moses would be like, wait a minute. They're not that bad. And I think what was happening was kind of like when your kids won't clean up their toys. And finally you're like, all right, and you get out a trash bag and you start throwing toys in the trash bag. You're not going to throw away all their toys. You know you're not going to throw away all their toys. And all the little kids are next door, so I can say this and not mess up anybody's plan. You're not going to throw those away. At most, you're going to hide them in the garage until Christmas and give them back at Christmas time. Or if they forget they exist, you'll give them away and they'll get new stuff. But how often, okay? I think it'd be hard to find a parent that didn't threaten to throw out a toy because it didn't get cleaned up. You never planned to throw it out, but your kids realized how important and how much you meant. And so when Moses would start complaining about Israel, he'd be like, "You're a people." And God would be like, "Fine, I'll kill them all, and you can be the king." Moses would go, "All right, maybe don't kill them all. Maybe kill a few." But what happened was God was forcing Moses' heart to knit with Israel. And so when we read that God was extremely angry, that doesn't mean that when we read that he was like going to wipe Israel out, well, how did God change? God didn't change. He's a very creative father, okay? So Moses was aggravated. Moses said to the Lord, "Why are you treating me, your servant, so harshly? Have mercy on me. What did I do to deserve the burden of all these people? Did I give birth to them? Did I bring them into the world? Why did you tell me to carry them in my arms like a mother carries a nursing baby? How can I carry them to the land you swore to give their ancestors? Where am I supposed to get meat for all of these people? They keep whining to me saying, 'Give us meat to eat.' I can't carry all these people by myself. The load is far too heavy. If this is how you intended to treat me, just go ahead and kill me. Do me a favor and spare me this misery." Wow, Moses. He's kind of being a whiny little person. But moms and dads, have you ever been in a situation when our kids do something stupid or crazy or whatever, Pam and I will look at each other and go, "That's your blood. They inherited that from you. That's your mess. You deal with that." Do me a favor and spare me this misery. You'd be hard-pressed to find a parent, mom or dad, anybody, that has not experienced this moment where their kids have them on, like dancing on the last thread of the piece of rope that you're hanging from. And my friend Richard Remington once said that when he asks somebody how they're doing, they say hanging in there, he imagines them hanging from like a necktie. "Oh, I'm hanging in there," really means I'm dying. How many parents have been there and they're just like, why? Why did we do this? Pam and I used to also, we do it less now because of Matt McCracken over there, but we used to look at each other when the kids did something particularly frustrating and go, "Let's have more." We don't do that anymore. It's too scary. But for a long time, that was the joke, because it's like, why is this kid being completely insane? Why are they this way? Okay? Well, the Lord answers Moses. Moses says, "Gather before me 70 men who are recognized as elders and leaders of Israel. Bring them to the tabernacle to stand there with you. I will come down and talk to you there. I will take some of the spirit that is upon you, and I will put the spirit upon them also. They will bear the burden of the people along with you, so that you will not have to carry it alone." What? Moses just pitches the biggest fit, and God doesn't tell him to suck it up. God doesn't tell him to grow up. God doesn't tell him, "Sorry, they're yours, deal with it." God says, "I'm going to build something to help you out." And so a lot of the times when I'm talking to parents as a pastor and they're saying, what can we do? We talk about structures that we can build within their lives to take some of that pressure off. We talk about what is important and what is not important. We talk about things that they can ignore and they can let go. We talk about picking battles because you don't have to fight. As a parent, you don't have to fight every battle. You don't. You pick the big ones today and you deal with the smaller ones tomorrow. God said, Moses, I see you, I hear you, I commiserate with you, and I've got a structure for you to help you. And so God called me and Pam to become lead pastors. And I was very, very afraid. And I'm still very afraid. Because I get intimidated by people. And I get afraid that people are going to leave the church. And I look at the money and I get scared because money always freaks me out. It always has. And I haven't grown out of that. And so this last week when I lost my temper, I called my support system. Because God gave me a support system. I called Kurt at Foursquare. I said, Kurt, I messed up. And he talked to me, and he loved me, and he cared for me. And I called this counselor who's going to teach me how to deal better so that this doesn't happen in the future, to make my fuse longer, if you will. And I called the church council. And I talked to them because God has put the church council in my life to do that. They're my people that are there to support me. And if I mess up, they're there to call me out. And having people in your life that can call you out when you mess up is about the safest thing you can have. And so God gave that to Moses. Instead of telling Moses to suck it up, you're their leader, deal with it, God said, I've got a structure for you, I've got a plan. This thing that you've been doing by yourself, the complaints of 5 million people that you've been dealing with, we're going to spread that amongst 70 more people. And so what happened was the 70 would listen to issues, and if they couldn't deal with it, then it would go to Moses. So Moses only dealt with the ones they couldn't handle. So his workload went from here to nothing. I think I missed a thing. Hang on. Okay, so Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20. Now all glory to God who is able through his mighty power to work within us to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask or think. Okay? If God called me to a thing, it is going to be greater than me. That is his nature. He calls us to things that are greater than us so that we rely on him. Because he's not calling us to do a job without him. He's calling us to partner with him and work in tandem. So if God has called me to a thing, he's called me to a thing that's bigger than I am. Bigger than I can dream. John 15:5. Yes, I am the vine and you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Okay, I want you guys to write this down if you're filling out notes in your bulletin. Remember, if you can accomplish your plans apart from God, they aren't his plans for you. If you can accomplish your plans apart from God, they aren't his plans for you. All right. Moving on into the Captain Mom stage. This is arguably the busiest mom stage. This is when all the soccer practices, school plays, visits to the dentist, cupcakes for the bake sale, and all that other kind of activities take place. Mom's just running back and forth, and she's in the car more than she's in her home, and she's just driving kids around, making sure that stuff's done all the time. And as children grow into young people, moms are often the main force keeping them stable as everything is constantly changing. That is often the standard, okay? I would like to say that dads are there all the time, but we know that the current state of the American family, that is not true. That is sometimes true, but it is not, it's not even, if dads are around, they're working and not super involved. Pam went to, years and years and years and years ago, she went to hang out with some ladies, and they were just going to have a girls' game night or something. And she was gone for 3 or 4 hours, and I took care of the kids and cleaned the house and did dinner and everything. And she came home, and the kids were in bed, and everything was quiet. And she looked at me, and she goes, all those other husbands don't do anything. I said, what? And so the women get together and complain about the men, which is pretty standard. That's what I would do. Men get together and try to figure out the women. Does your wife do that? Yeah. You figure out why? No. Do you have any ideas? But the women get together and complain about the men, and Pam came home and was like, Derek, you do, like I don't do a lot. I don't do as much as I could or as much as I should. I'll be honest about that. But she said, Derek, they don't do anything. They don't help with food. They don't help with dishes. They go to work. They come home. They sit in their chair. They do nothing else. It's true. As children grow into young people, moms are often the main force keeping them stable. And as our mission grows, okay, as God's calling on us grows, we often feel out of control. Like a truck that's rolling away from us and we can't keep up. But in Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6, God says, so be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid and do not panic before them, for the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will never fail you nor abandon you. Now, this was a specific moment for Israel. They were getting ready to go in battle, and God spoke a specific thing to them. But this is one of those times where this is the heart of God for his people. So because God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, because Jesus is the same yesterday, and today, and forever, his heart doesn't change. Therefore, we can look at this, and if God has called you to something, he is telling you, be strong and be courageous. Don't be afraid. Don't panic. For the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. Okay? As a parent, he will never fail you or abandon you. As a person who is called to a personal mission, he will never fail you. He will never abandon you. For your family, he will never fail. He will never abandon. For this church, for Life Fellowship, he will never fail and he will never abandon us. 2 Peter chapter 1, by his divine power, God has given us everything we need for living a godly life. We have received all of this by coming to know him, the one who's called us to himself by means of his marvelous glory and excellence. And because of his glory and excellence, he has given us great and precious promises. These are the promises that enable you to share his divine nature and escape the world's corruption caused by human desires. If God has called you to it, he's given you what you need to accomplish it. As long as you stay connected to him, because without Jesus, we cannot do anything, right? All right. So that leads us to 5, the pseudo-separation stage, okay? This is a stage where a mom has to begin to deal with the fact that her children don't need her like they used to. And even more so, that she needs to encourage them to be independent. Okay, this is the later teenage years. Kids need to be taking care of themselves. Last night, Pam and I were laying in bed, and I was laying in bed. Pam came to the bedroom and shut the door, and she goes, all right, the kids told me that I'm not allowed to leave my room until tomorrow, so if I need anything, you have to go get it. I said, great. Oh, right, tomorrow's Mother's Day. Yeah, I remember. I'm on top of it. And then I stopped for a second. I said, Pam, I don't know what they did. They did everything without me, and I didn't have anything to do with anything. And she goes, that's fine. They're old enough to handle it. And I went, they're old enough to handle it. They're old enough to handle it. I don't have to think about Mother's Day for my wife anymore. So many years, 16 years, trying to figure out what my wife, who needs nothing and wants nothing, would like. The answer is always nothing. But we figured it out anyway, and we're trying to love her, and we're trying to honor her, and now I don't have to think about it anymore. Do Jay. And it's because we're in this phase where the kids are old enough that they need to be independent, and they need to be thinking for themselves, and they need to be taking responsibility for their own stuff. And I think this is harder for mothers than it is for fathers, simply for the fact that you carried them. You carried them for 9 months. You held them. You fed them. You walked with them. You cleaned them up. You fought through the toddler stage. You worked them through the busy years, and now they don't need you. That has to cut like a knife. Now, it's part of life. There's really no way around that. You can't say, you're not growing up. You're staying here. Moms in mom jokes. Mom jokes are a thing. They're terrible. Not lying. Mom jokes are terrible. Dad jokes are awesome. Mom jokes are terrible. I can't fix it. I can't change it. It's science. It's science. Okay? Gravity works, and mom jokes are terrible. I'm sorry. But, so moms will be like, I'm going to keep them forever. That's a mom joke. They're not going to keep them forever. You can't keep them forever. So we're in this really hard part of life where we're having to learn and get ready to let them go. Now, this stage of mission is a little different than that. But you have to understand that if God has called you to something, it has an end date because you have an end date. The thing that God has called you to has an end date because you have an end date. Okay? Mothers, your end date is when you die. You'll stop being a mother that day. But when we're looking at our missions and the calling that God has on our lives, they're seasonal. And they're only for a time. And we're eventually going to have to let go. Okay? We seldom know when we're going to have to let go of our missions, but there's this idea that we've been pouring into our leaders for generations, and that is that you need to be always training your replacement. And if they grow up and become your replacement and it's not time for you to leave, then it's your time to let them go and lead somewhere else and then start training a new replacement and constantly be training new replacements and growing leaders so that they can either take your spot when your time is over or so that they can go and lead somewhere else. Okay? Psalm 32, verses 8 and 9, the Lord said, I will guide you along the best pathway for your life. I will advise you and watch over you. Do not be like a senseless horse or a mule that needs a bit and bridle to keep it under control. So in this season of your dream, like a mother and her children, it might just be kind of taking care of itself. Okay? Maybe the thing that God's called you to, the mission that you're currently working on is kind of running on its own. And things just kind of work. And sometimes keeping it working means getting out of the way of your replacements. And stepping out of the way and letting your replacement leaders take it over. Finally, number 6 is the onward stage. This is when the stage when mothers must let their children be their own people. This is a hard one. A lot of mothers, this is probably the hardest thing for them. Because you have to let your kids be their own people. And a lot of your kids will get married and start their own families. And a mother must work to separate herself from their children and allow them to create their own family, their own new family. It doesn't do for a mom to walk into the house of the new family and start changing things because they don't suit her will. That's why we have mother-in-law jokes. And why we talk about how harsh mother-in-laws can be. My mother-in-law is awesome. She has been prime at this from the very beginning. I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating. My mother-in-law, okay, the one thing she does, she comes to our house and she'll be working in the kitchen. She'll go to put dishes away, but she doesn't really know where they go, so she just kind of puts them places. That's the only thing. She doesn't come and change how we raise our kids. She doesn't come and challenge how we raise our kids. She doesn't come in and tell us that we need to do holidays differently or anything like that. Her heart has always been, how can I support you? What can I do to help your family thrive? And that is the heart that a mother needs to have. Now, my mom, Pam's mother-in-law, similar. Okay? My mom has never been one to step in and step in the way. She's always, how can I help? How can I serve? What can I do to support the family? Me and Pam's mothers have been our support system. They've been a large part of our support system. The weirdest thing was when Xander was 2 and Errol was 3 months old, 4 months old, something like that. Pam and my mom kind of got in this unspoken battle of who can give the biggest gift. Because we had this unfinished basement and it was just massive. And so like one of the moms gave the play school kitchen, but it was the play school kitchen with like just the giant one with like it was like a professional kitchen, but play school. And then another one gave us a 7-foot trampoline. Like the walls of the trampoline were like this far from the ceiling, but we put the kids in there anyway. They were, and there was a bunch of other things that they gave too. There was just big gift, big gift, big gift. Finally, we were like, guys, we don't have any more room. Like we had a lot of room, but we don't have room now. Stop. But it's because they loved their grandkids and they wanted to take care of them. And they wanted them to have the best of what life had. And so as a mother, you grow up into this place and your kids leave and they become their own people. And it's not your job to mom them anymore. It's your job to support them. And it's the same in our calling. Okay? Pastors Kelly and Ellen are a prime example of this. They retired, they stepped away for a season, and then they came back. And when they came back, they didn't walk into the church and say, church needs to be run this way, church needs to be run that way, you guys have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. They did not do that. They came in and they said, how can we help? And they've done nothing but support us from the moment we set foot here. That's the calling. Ellen's parents as well. You don't see 3 generations of pastors in the same church because pastoral transitions are kind of like mom transitions. They don't go well. Okay? But we have a special thing in this world, in this family, in this community, where when it's time for me to step down, I want to support the person that takes my place. And I don't want to tell them how to run their job. I want to step back and I want to say, hey, God is calling Life Fellowship to a new season and a new place. And I want you to pray and talk to God and find out where he's leading you. And if you need anything, I want to support you. I want to help you. But I understand that this is your space, not mine. Now, moms, that is super hard. But the cycle starts over again, moms, doesn't it? You start thinking about grandkids. And you start dreaming again. I'm dreaming again. I could, without anything weird happening, I could be a grandfather in 2 years. 2.5 years. He will be 17 at the end of the month. Or sorry, not at the end of the month. At the end of the summer, he'll be 17. Which means that in 15 months, he could be getting married. And in 2.5 years, I could have a grandbaby. And none of that would be weird. What? Boy doesn't need help. He will step into that world when he is ready to, and we're not going to push him. Look, nobody pushed me. My dad tried, some of his friends, my uncles, some of those people kind of were always like, hey, who you dating? My first date was with my wife. My first kiss was with my wife. My first everything was with my wife. And it was fine. And it worked out really well. And so I don't think that pressuring kids into relationships is ever a good idea. If we're being completely serious and completely honest, and we haven't talked about this before, so I want to throw that out there. The joke, however, is, all right. But moms start dreaming about grandkids, which means they're dreaming anew, right? Isaiah chapter 43, verses 18 and 19. We read this before. But forget all that has happened. It's nothing compared to what I'm going to do, for I'm about to do something new. See, I've already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in a wasteland. The dream starts again for a mom. And one might argue that this is the better part. Because she doesn't have to be a mom, she gets to be a grandma. And she gets to spoil the kids, and she gets to fight with the other grandma about who gives the bigger gift. Right? And there's joy there, and there's excitement there, and there's rest there. And it's the same for us. When I stepped out of being a youth pastor, when Pam and I quit being youth pastors, we realized that our time there was done. There was this moment at the beginning of that summer, we had this thing called Newbies Night, and it was when all of the kids that were graduating from elementary school would come in and do their first youth night, and then they would actually come full-time at the end of the summer. And so we had this room, and I walked into this room full of new 7th graders, and they were loud, and they were mean. And I went, like, it was Mean Girls. This group was Mean Girls, the movie, so much. And Pam and I looked at them, and we both went, oh, no, we're done. We are done. The grace for this moment has left. The season is over. Time to move forward. And we did. And so we started dreaming again about what this season would be. Even more so. Now, in closing, I'm done for the most part, but I want to end here. It's not appropriate to reach backward in stages. God said, forget what I have done. I'm doing a new thing. Look forward. It is not appropriate to reach backward in stages. You cannot captain mom your adult children. You shouldn't breastfeed your teenagers. It is that kind of inappropriate to reach backward in stages. We look forward, we move forward. And sometimes in our mission, in our calling, maybe the mission that we've been working on doesn't continue with a new leader. Maybe it gets shut down. Maybe it's a thing that's a season for a time and now it's over. But we don't look back, we look forward. God said, forget what I did. God said, forget that I parted the Red Sea and brought you out of Egypt. Forget that. I'm doing something better ahead, okay? But we get to look at the new mission that God's calling us to. And here's the thing. If you have a pulse, he's not done with you yet. If you have a pulse, he's not done with you yet. He's got another mission for you. He's got a plan for you. He's got a purpose for you. As long as you have tomorrows, you have a plan. God, I thank you so much for all the moms here, for the mothers that you've given us. God, the gift that is a mother cannot be overstated. And I believe our language fails us here as well, because we cannot speak of the greatness of a mom. But God, we do know that all of the things that a mom is comes from you, comes from your heart. You made moms in your image just the same way you made man and woman both in your image, which means we carry the characteristics of our Father. And so, God, all these moms carry the heart of God. And so when we look at them, we see you. When we look at how they love us, we see you. When we look at how they care for us, we see you. God, I thank you that in our lives, you're never done. God, we might retire from our jobs and not know what to do with tomorrow, but we never retire from you. And you always have a plan for our tomorrow. So God, I pray that you would be speaking to us as individuals, as families, and as Life Fellowship, as a church. You'd be speaking to us of our next mission, and that you would start the dreaming phase. And we would start to look forward with dreams saying, God, what if this is the future? What if that's in the future? What if this is what we're supposed to be doing? What if that's what we're supposed to be doing? And God, we look in and we just dream with you. God, we let the what if guide us so that you can bring us into the next phase. God, we don't want to inappropriately reach into the past. We want to remember the great things, sure. But God, we can't go back in and redo the things that we've passed from. So as you lead us forward, God, I pray that you would lead us clearly, and that we would hear you clearly, that we would see the path that you're laying out for us so that we could walk confidently towards you. And that, God, when we do get out into the water and we see the waves and we see the wind and everything becomes real, that we would also remember that you are there too. And that you've built support systems for us, and that you are a support system for us, and that we're not alone, even though it might feel like we are sometimes. But God, you are so good, and your plans for us are so good, and we want to walk in them. So we thank you, we love you, we praise you. In your name, amen. All right, I think there might be some more snacks in the kitchens, moms, if you want to run back there and grab them before the dads get at it. Otherwise, do that. If you need prayer this morning, we do have a prayer team available for you. They'll be up here on my left, your right. They're super kind and want to stand with you for what it is that you're contending for. Otherwise, guys, go out and give them heaven. Have a great week.